lady on the left says, everything covered but her eyes, what a cruel male-dominated culture. But the lady in the right says, nothing covered but her eyes, what a cruel male-dominated culture. There are very distinctive thoughts, reflects on their different types of culture. And the reporters for today are Jenny, Vivian, Jane, and Mandy. But because of her internship, Mandy cannot make it to be here to deliver her presentation. So we'll just simply browse through her part. Okay, here's some comparison of the conception of the self. As in Chinese culture, we simply focuses on collectivism, higher value placed on group cooperation and individual modesty. But in American culture, it's kind of individualist, higher value placed on self-reliance. Self-promotion is more acceptable, high value placed on freedom from externally imposed constraints. And about social relationships in Chinese culture, it's kind of formal, hierarchical. People most comfortable in the presence of hierarchy in which they know their position and the customs, rules for behavior in the situation. But in American culture, it's kind of informal, egalitarian. People most comfortable with their social equals, importance of social rankings minimized.
And for friendship, for Chinese, small number of close, lifelong friends who feel deeply obligated to give each other whatever help might seem required. But for Americans, large collection of friends and acquaintances which change over time and involves only limited mutual obligations. But when it talks about the obligations, for Chinese, relationships with other people involve reciprocal obligations. But for Americans, people avoid interdependent relationships and situations that might entail short-term obligations.
Talk about the role of laws, rules, and regulations. For Chinese, more fast in personal relationships and written rules and procedures for structuring interaction. But for American, written rules presumably apply to everyone and are assumed to produce fair, reasonable procedures and decisions. And time consciousness. For Chinese, relatively more attention to the past and to the longer term future. For America, less interested in the past, eye on near term future.
And the first question is what advice would you give a person if they just moved to your country? Before you move to our country, you must be consider many things like the first one food. You should know that you should know that you should comprehend what kind of food people are usually eat, and whether you can accept it or not. And the second one is weather. You should know that the weather is cold or hot. If you move to a country that you can stand this weather, then you may get sick. And the third one is custom. I think you should consider about the country's custom or cultures. Just like their table manner or the way they are talking. Otherwise, you may offend someone. And the last one is safety. You should know that your house nearby is safe or dangerous. And the second question is, what is the key to overcoming culture shock? I think it's being flexible. If you can do that, then you feel very comfortable about many things. And you won't always feel down and then you just want to get back home earlier. And the second one is passions. Because
adapt to new life after their excitement. So I think there are many things cause the stress in a new culture, like cultural difference and personal thoughts change strongly. The main and I think the main reason that cause stress in a new culture is mental, because when you move there and you unfamiliar their culture and their custom, so and you don't know, you don't understand what they see, what they talk about, or what they do something. So you are afraid you can do whether better or not. And how can you try to get over culture shock? When you want to live other country, and you should read some information about that country. How can you know? You can see the book talk about their country, and especially you should know in special situation what they will do and what they will talk and what they eat. This and simply put, you should realize the culture and customs about the country. And you can ask your friend who have been there, and you can ask them some. You should know the necessary information. And finally, most importantly, you you ought to make sure your mind that already complete prepare for new life of new environment.
Well, here are the definition of culture shock. The term culture shock was introduced for the first time in 1958 to describe the anxiety produced when a person moves to a completely whole new environment. And this term expresses a lack of direction, the feeling of not knowing what to do or how to do things in a new environment, and not knowing what is appropriate or inappropriate. We can describe culture shock as a physical and emotional discomfort one suffers when coming to live in another country or a place different from the place of origin. Well, here are the kind of comparison. Often the way that we lived before is not accepted or as considered as normal in the new place. Everything is different. For example, not speaking the language, not knowing how to use the bank machines, not knowing how to use the telephone, and so forth. And as the picture appears that the lady on the left represents the Chinese culture. And as you can see, we get used to using chopsticks and mainly have light food like boiled vegetables and drinking tea. But the Western lady kind of make a fuss not knowing how to use the chopsticks, but because they mainly use knife and forks and mainly have a drink. Mm, and being in a new culture, we can also learn about ourselves. Although we can experience real pain from culture shock, it is also a great opportunity for redefining one's life objectives. It is a great opportunity for learning and acquiring new perspectives. Culture shock can make one develop a better understanding of oneself and stimulate personal creativity. And it might be exciting, a new culture, but it can also have some hard time for the people in that culture, like sadness, loneliness, melancholy, preoccupation with health, aches, pains, and allergies, or insomnia, desire to sleep too much or too little, and changes in temperament, depression, feeling vulnerable, and feeling powerless, and loss of identity and trying too hard to absorb everything in a new culture or country and lack of confidence. or even feelings of inadequacy or insecurity, and developing stereotypes about the new culture, and longing for family, the feelings of being lost, overlooked, exploited, and abused. But how could we get over culture shock? Here are some tips, like develop a hobby, learn to be constructive. If you encounter an unfavorable environment, never put yourself in that situation again. Be easy on yourself and learn to include a regular form of physical activity in your routine. This will help combat the sadness and loneliness in a constructive manner. And relaxation and meditation are proven to be very positive for people who are passing through periods of stress. This is kind of a distraction about what you are focused on. And maintain contact with the new culture and learn the language. It kind of reminded me the time that I was the interpreter for the Kazakhstan national team during the 2012 World Cup women basketball. And they are from Kazakhstan. It's a country that was a member of formal Soviet Union. And people there are mainly Muslim, so they don't have pork, they don't have wines, and they don't speak English. So it's really kind of hard for me to communicate with them. But I think that as long as we respect and help, or even learn from each other, we can finally understand each other and communicate very well. And it turns out to be that we maintain a great friendship ever since. So that's all for today's presentation, and thank you for listening.